welcome back to Dees Nerds. I'm Michelle, and today we're doing a book review of Star Wars Phasma by Delilah S. Dawson. Today we're talking about this book, and this is one of the books that's in the official Star Wars canon, and this focuses clearly on Captain Phasma. So she's a character that we don't see a ton of in the new trilogy, but I feel like she's one that, like Boba Fett, caught a lot of popularity despite not knowing a whole lot about her. But I will say, having read this book, I can definitely see a lot more of the fascination. I think I'm a lot more interested in her character, having read an entire book that focuses on her. So what I was expecting when I got this book was to see a story from her point of view, but that's not at all what you get. So this book is actually set up as a story within a story. A rebel spy gets caught by the First Order. She gets drawn onto their ship, and this guy named Cardinal, he's also a captain. He has red armor from head to toe, and he takes her to this secret room and starts basically interrogating her and trying to figure out what she knows about Phasma. So what he wants to do, because Phasma kind of took over his life, is find a way to take her down, and that's his plan. And so he's working with this girl, trying to get information out of her, of course, all the while kind of torturing her in a First Order fashion, but always seeming not so sure about what he's doing. The girl, in the interest of self-preservation, is trying to make sure that she doesn't give this information away too easily, so she makes it kind of last a couple of days. And so she tells Phasma's story, essentially what turns out from beginning to end. And Phasma, she came from the planet of Parnassus, and it was a planet that, as far as she knew, was a really rough. She lived in this rocky area right by the sea, and there was this kind of warring tribe that lived nearby that they had a temporary peace with, and their lives were very difficult. So they basically survived off of animals that died and washed up on shore, and then any sea vegetables that they could kind of get, seaweed and the like, from the shallows. Their lives were difficult, and she was a warrior, of course, in this tribe, but it was very primitive. They had this sense, and they understood that at some point their planet had been this place with tons of technology, and it was very advanced. But somewhere along the way, something went wrong, and they ended up getting left with nothing. So occasionally they're able to pick up pieces of things that were left behind and create things that they need from those, but they don't actually have any functional technology anymore. They just have the scraps left over. So they assume that's what their entire world is like. And then one day, Brendel Hux, which is General Hux from the new trilogies, this is his father, crashes down with a group of stormtroopers in his ship on this planet, and our story goes from there. So Phasma manages to meet him and get in with him. Her story is so interesting, though, because you're never quite sure what her motives are. So she and her brother rule together, and they ended up in charge when their previous leader was killed, I believe it was. So the two of them are in charge together, but her brother can't really walk anymore. Something happened to his leg. It's that he's kind of the figurehead ruler, and then when things need to go out and be done, she goes out to do them. So when Hux's ship goes down, they see it, and they're in their minds going to go and scavenge from it. They're not really expecting survivors, but they're going to go and get the materials to, like I said before, use for other things that they need. As it happens, they end up meeting Brendel Hux, and they find him and a couple of the stormtroopers with their sort of warring faction, and end up taking out that group in order to take Brendel Hux and not let that group benefit from anything that happens. So she takes a group of her warriors, they're with Hux, and they essentially are going to try to get all the way back to their ship. And he promises them that if they can get back to the ship, that he'll take them up with him, and he'll take them from this miserable life, and they'll get to go be in space and work with the First Order. So you immediately see a shift with Phasma, and I think that becomes really interesting. You're really just, like I said, not sure what her intentions are, not sure what her goals are. But slowly, as you start to watch her, you sort of see how she becomes this really harsh character that we get to see in the sequel trilogy. So you see a lot of betrayal on her part. You see some kind of shady actions toward the other members of her tribe that are with her. And you also find out through the course of this that her planet is in fact not completely barren. That there are parts of it that they've just never gone the distance to explore to find other things happening. So she pulls off some pretty interesting and sometimes extremely shady deals and stunts in the process of doing this. So of course that we know in the end she gets off the planet and ends up in the First Order. She becomes the poster child for the First Order and all of their soldiers. and all of the stormtroopers and all of that. She's literally like the advertising poster for them. And so she's unique in that she did all of that, but she actually was able to maintain her real name. Phasma is her real name. And that, with Cardinal, who was trying to figure out her story and take her down, that is a particular point of contention to him, because everyone else was simply assigned their letter number combination. No one else was ever given a name. No one else's name was ever used. And so before, he was the only one that was ever special. He was given the name Cardinal with his red armor, and that is something that really bothers him. He was actually Brindle Hux's personal guard. Phasma returns and he's kind of displaced. He's very angry with her and angry with Hux for not really explaining what happened there. And we also discover in the course of it, and I won't tell you how this happens, but we do actually discover how she gets this particular armor, and it's a really cool story. So I actually give this one a 5-star. I was not sure I was going to love this one because I wasn't sure I was super interested in her character, but I think that the story is so insightful. The way the story is framed is so interesting because you never actually get her point of view. You get all of this story from this spy who was told her story by someone on the planet that was in her tribe. So we get all of these kind of different perspectives, but never hers. So I always thought that was particularly interesting. Parts of this get pretty gruesome and gritty and dark, but I think it was awesome. I thought the story was exceptionally well written. This is actually an author that I had not read before. I've read several of these books now, and some of them were authors that I had read non-Star Wars books by them. And I have a couple more by her, so I'm excited now to read them. So I definitely recommend Phasma, especially if you thought she was an interesting character, or if you just found her eye-catching and wondered what her story was. Definitely worth a read. Super cool story. Explains a lot of things that are just sort of taken for granted as something that just is when you get to the sequel trilogy, and then you get an explanation for how they got that way. So if you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and ring that bell for notifications so you can see whenever we post a new video. I have lots more of these book reviews coming, and I hope you enjoy. Bye, everybody.